today we're going over function tables and graphs. So I filled in all of your notes, so if you want to pause and take a minute to get all those filled in and then we can talk about it, I would recommend you do that. So I'll give you a second, pause, fill in all your words, and then we'll talk through it. So our first word is a linear equation, and that's an equation in which the variables appear in separate terms and neither variable contains an exponent other than 1. So it's an equation where I can plug in solutions of x and y to make the equation true. Just like when we were solving an equation with our equations unit, we had x plus 2 equals 7. I could plug in a value for x, which we would know is 5, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So now instead of just having x, I also have a y that I can get out of it. And it says to graph an equation, you need 2 points. These points are found by choosing values for the domain, or x values, and plugging them into the equation. So we're solving the equation using values that will give you the range. So it's plugging in a number to get a number to pop out. So it's kind of like a machine. You have a rule to your machine, you plug in a number into your machine, and out pops another number. So that's kind of what we're getting into. We use a table to determine the corresponding coordinates for an ordered pair, so we just use a table to organize our work. Kind of like our ratio tables that we used with our 6th grade unit. The x-intercept is the point on the graph where it crosses the x-axis. To find the x-intercept, plug in 0 as the x-coordinate and solve the equation. So the intercept, or the intersection of where the x crosses the line crosses the x-axis. And then the same thing for the y-intercept. It's the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. To find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for y, because I don't go anywhere. I'm sorry, wait a minute, that's backwards. Fix these. This should be as the y-coordinate. And this should be the x-coordinate. Sorry. My fault. You have to be able to plug in y as the x-coordinate because I just want to walk a number. I don't want to fly any for my x-intercept. And then the same thing, I want to walk 0, but I want to fly a number. So I apologize, that was backwards. The x-intercept is the point where it still crosses the x-axis, but you put 0 in for the y-coordinate because it's the opposite coordinate. Same thing for the y-intercept. If I want to find the y-intercept, I would put 0 in for the x-coordinate. My fault. Okay, so let's talk about how do we do the substituting of the numbers. So step 1, choose equivalent or convenient easy values for x. So we're going to use the numbers -1, 0, 1, and 2. Those are the x values that we're going to plug in to our equation for our line. So our equation is this up here. So what we're looking for is we are looking for y. That's what we're trying to find by solving the equation. So if we solve the equation, I'm going to start with the second line. I'm going to start with 0. Negative, and I'm going to use parentheses to plug in. 0 for the x plus 8. So all I did was put parentheses and I plugged in the 0 to solve that. If I do -0, well, there is no such thing as -0, so it's just 0 plus 8, I end up with 8. So the ordered pair I could plot on my coordinate plane, the x value would be 0 and the y value would be 8. So all you're doing is substituting in the numbers. So if I do the first one, I have to keep the negative, and then I'm going to substitute in -1 plus 8. Well, minus negative turns into a plus, so this is really +1 plus 8, and 1 plus 8 is 9. So my point that I could plot on my my coordinate plane, x would be -1, because that's from the x column, and whenever I plugged in x of -1, the 9 popped out. Negative, substitute in +1, plus 8. And you could, I mean, you could do it so you're just leaving blanks like that, and then go down through and just plug in all your numbers. That would be fine too. So I have -1 plus 8, so that's going to be 7. So my point is going to be x. If x is 1, 7 pops out as y. And then I have -2 plus 2, which is going to be 0. I apologize, that was my computer battery running low, not yours. So I have, if I plug in 2 as the x, I pop out 0 as the y. So, step 2 was to substitute the values in for x, which is what we did. Step 3 was to simplify to find the y values, and then step 4 was to write the solutions as the ordered pairs. We did all 4 things. Now, the last thing that we need to do is we just need to plot them on the coordinate plane. So if I look at my first point is -1, +9. So I'm going to come down to my graph. I'm going to start at the origin. I'm going to go -1, +9. There's my first nice pretty point. My second point was at 0, 8. So I'm going to go over 0. So I'm not walking any. And I'm going to fly 8. So here's my second point. My third point was 1, 7. So walk 1, fly 7. And my fourth point was walk 2. Did I make a mistake? Oh, I did. This should be an 8. I'm just full of mistakes today. So this is -2 plus 8, which would have given me a 6. And if you already caught it, good job. Thank you for questioning me. I am not perfect. So this is -2, 6. Now, I knew that I had made a mistake because if I had 2, 0, like I originally had, that would have put my point here. In 6th grade, we're only graphing straight lines. This dot right here would not have been on my line. So that's how I knew I had made a mistake. So that's how I went up and I figured out, oh wait, I used 8 instead of 6. Now, like I said, we're using nice, pretty straight lines. So I recommend use a straight edge, a ruler, a side of your binder. Draw a nice, pretty straight line. Your arrows should go off of the graph. And I even made a little note here. Make sure your line includes arrows on the ends to show that there are more solutions. So if you continue this, anywhere where it intersects pretty, and mine's not perfect, but anywhere where it intersects on one of these little pluses, it's also going to be a solution. Now, even if it doesn't intersect there could be solutions that are decimals, but we're not going to work our way through those ones. But always make sure your arrows go off and we're able to notate all the different solutions. All right, so let's try another one together. And for this one, we are given the x values to plug in. They're asking us for the domain and the range. Our equation that we're solving is this. So I'm going to do myself a favor, and I'm going to put blank parentheses where the x is. So I have -2 times whatever x is minus 2. And I'm going to write that the whole way down for all of those. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to plug in my numbers. So I'm going to plug in 0, then I'm going to plug in 1, then I'm going to plug in -1, and then I'm going to plug in 2. And I'm going to see what pops out after I solve that equation. So if I do -2 times 0, that's going to be 0. 0 minus 2 is -2. So my point is 0, -2. And then if I do -2 times 1, that's -2. -2 minus 2 is -4. So I have 1, -4. That's my point. When I put in 1, -4 pops out. Then I have -2 times -1, which is +2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So when I plug in -1, 0 pops out. And then the last one, if I plug in +2, -2 times +2 is -4. -4 minus 2 is -6. So if I plug in 2, -6 pops out. So you can do your domain and range. Remember, your domain is all your x's. Alphabetically, it comes first. Range is all your y's. Alphabetically, y comes second. So my domain is 0, 1, -1, and 2. The range is all the y values. -2, -4, 0, and -6. Last thing, you have to plot it. Remember, we're always going to have straight lines. It's always going to be a straight line in Math 6, at least for what we're doing right now. So we have 0, -2, 1, +1, walk 1, fly -4, walk -1, fly 0, and walk +2, fly -6. Draw a nice pretty straight line. Get my straight line tool, kind of help me out a little bit. Use a straight edge. And there is our points, all plotted. All right, so I want for you to try number 2. I'll help you with your setup. So you're going to do 3 times blank plus 2. And that's what you're going to do for all of them down and substitute in your values. So go ahead, pause here, and see if you can do that one on your own. Here is your answer for number 2. Remember, you had to substitute in your values, solve them all. Those are the y's that pop out. Then you write your coordinate. So I had 0, 2, and then 1, 5, and -1, 1, and -2, -4. Your domain is all your x's, your range is all the y's. Plot your points, make a nice pretty straight line. If they don't make a straight line, you did something wrong. Okay, I want you to try number 3 on your own. I'm going to do the setup for you one more time. So I have -2 times whatever x is plus 1. X always is going to become where those parentheses go. And then you can just write it down the whole way and go back and fill in all those numbers. So from there, I want you to solve the rest of those. And here is your answer for number 3. So I want you to do 4 and 5 on the next page, and we're going to talk about number 6 together, so don't get too carried away. So I want you to try 4 and 5 all by yourself, unpause when you're ready to see your answers for them, and then we're going to talk about 6 together. And here's your answer for number 4. And this is your answer for number 5. So let's talk about number 6. Number 6, do you see how it's just a y equals for this problem? There's nowhere for us to plug in an x value. So we actually can't solve any equations here because there's no equation for us to plug x into. So all the y values, because it says y is equal to 4, all the y values are going to be 4. So for any x value we pick, which we picked these ones, we have 0, 4, 1, 4, -1, 4, and -2, 4. And so our domain, 0, 1, -1, and -2, but our range is only 4, because everything repeats 4. So when we go to plot this, 0, 4, 1, 4, -1, 4, and -2, 4, you can see that they are all a horizontal line, and they pass through 4. Now this is a horizontal line with a 0 slope that passes through the y-axis. So this is what we call a HOI. And we're going to get to that next lesson. But this is what we call a HOI line. It is a horizontal line with a 0 slope going through the y-axis. All right, so these are the trickier ones. I want you to try 7, 8, and 9. Fill in the table, do the domain and range, unpause when you're ready to see all 3, and then you are done. And here are your answers for number 7, number 8, and number 9. Number 9, I changed my fraction into a decimal just to make it easier to work with, but you could work with it as a fraction if you wanted to. I always make a negative numerator if I have to choose. So it'd be negative 1 over 2 x plus 5 and when you're solving it. But if you're still struggling, make sure you go and check in with your teacher.